1:15 then, this Thursday lunchtime. How important are buying Fairtrade products to you? We're in the midst of Fairtrade Fortnight as we speak, and in Hinckley and Bosworth there are a number of events taking place to promote the importance of fair trade. In the studio with me is the Fairtrade Forum member, Mathew Hulbert. Mathew, Hinckley and Bosworth are... Remind me?
We're a Fairtrade Borough.
What does that actually mean then?
And we have been for a number of years now. And basically what that means is that the Fairtrade Foundation, which is like the governing body of fair trade in the UK, enable cities and towns and indeed schools, you can be a Fairtrade school, to gain that title because it's seen as a good thing to get, but you have to achieve a number of things to do that. You have to show that you have an active local fair trade forum, which we do. I'm one of several in Hinckley and Bosworth. You have to put on events. The council has to show that it's going to stock fair trade products. So a number of things.
Okay, yeah. So it's not just, I guess, not just during the fortnight.
No.
You're doing this throughout the year.
Yeah, absolutely. We thankfully in Hinckley and Bosworth, our group of volunteers, and we're all volunteers on the local fair trade forum, are so committed to the cause. And basically because, without being too pious about it, we think that farmers and growers in the developing world who work hard deserve to get fairer pay for their work. And so by buying products with a little fair trade label on it, which I think folks know now, more of the money they pay, a fairer amount, a more decent amount, a more dignified amount, goes to the original farmer and grower.
There was the theme this year is to do with sort of breakfasts and farmers.
It is. Now, who doesn't like their breakfast? I don't know about you, Rupal, but I love my breakfast. And so the theme this year is sit down for breakfast, stand up for farmers. And as the quote that the Fairtrade Foundation are using is an excellent one from the late Martin Luther King Jr. when he said, by the time you've had breakfast, you've depended on half the world. And I don't think we think about that. We go and we buy our products from the local shops. We sit down and we have our breakfast, and we're thinking about the events of the day, of course, and all of that. But all we're asking is that whilst you're doing that, also think about where did these products come from, and how much are the people who produced them, grew them, farmed them, making from this? And if they're not making a fair amount, an amount that we would certainly find hard to live on, then is that fair really? And shouldn't we do something about that?
So in which case you're sort of concentrating a lot of your events during Fairtrade Fortnight during breakfast time, aren't you?
We are indeed, yes. There's a number of... we've got so much going on, to be honest with you. We've got coffee mornings at local churches. We've got breakfast at churches, but not just at churches. This past Monday... Do you want me to admit something to you now, Rupal? So I'm a leap year child... leap year man, whatever you want to say.
I'm not going to ask how old you are in that.
Go on. So in actual birthdays celebrated, this past Monday it was my 9th.
Happy 9th.
Thanks very much. And so in real years I'm 36, but in actual leap year birthday celebrated I'm 9. And so at the George Ward Centre in Barwell, the community centre in Barwell, fantastic facility there, we had a fair trade tea, not so much a breakfast but a tea there, where some of our fair trade forum had made some lovely fair trade cakes which were just delicious, and we had fair trade tea and coffee, and we celebrated my 9th birthday. So events like that are just fun, entertaining. You have a nice social time, but you also know that there is that serious side, that by using fair trade products we're helping those developing world farmers.
And do you think sort of people in Hinckley and Bosworth are kind of happy with the idea of fair trade and go along with the ethos behind it?
I think so, and I'll tell you why. I'm a big believer in developing world aid as well, but I know that is a controversial thing to many people, the idea that we have issues at home and shouldn't we be dealing with those first. The great thing about fair trade is that these are people who are working hard. It's about trade rather than aid. It's about helping those who are working really hard in the developing world, longer days than frankly most of us work over here in the UK, under kind of pitiless skies, ensure that they get paid a fairer amount. And I'd kind of say, who could argue with that, really? This is about trade, not aid.
Great quote. I like the idea of that, because there are people all across the world that, as you say, are in comparison to our lives, live very, very difficult lives and in very difficult situations. Yeah. We're talking about children as well, who are very underpaid for very little money.
Absolutely, it's a tragic situation. And just a couple of days ago, Rupal, I was down at Parliament, which sounds very grand. I'm sorry about that, but because we had the launch at Westminster of the first ever APPG, all-party parliamentary group for fair trade, and one of the government ministers from Diffid spoke there and saying that trade rather than aid is important. I'd like to think both are important, but it was great to see MPs from across 6 or 7 political parties come along and be part of launching this APPG, which is basically a group of MPs from across parties who say we believe in fair trade, we support fair trade, and as a group we're going to campaign on that in Parliament. And it was an honour for me representing the Fairtrade Forum in Hinckley and Bosworth, to get along to that.
So this is what part of what the forum does then, sort of campaigning for more fair trade? Absolutely.
I mean, I must admit, I tend to do more of the kind of campaigning, the political side of it, really, I guess you might say. A lot of the forum members are involved in their local churches and promoting fair trade in that sense. But I think it's about both. It's about promoting it locally, but also doing that national stuff and saying, come on, government, come on, institutions of power, if you can do more to help these folks, you should be doing that.
And how much sort of contact do you have sort of with other organisations locally within Leicestershire?
Well, I mean, I know that I certainly think that Leicester is a fair trade city, which is fantastic. And I know Sarah Shepherd at the Just Shop in Leicester, Sarah is just phenomenal. And in fact, last year, Rupal, in Hinckley, we had our own fair trade conference. Very small, for a relatively small borough to put on something like this was no mean feat. And if I've got a few grey hairs now, it's because of organising that, along with my colleagues, because, gosh, it took some organising. But we had a fantastic day. Sarah came to speak from the Just Shop in Leicester. Rachel Sweet came to speak from the National Fair Trade Foundation, and we just had a phenomenal day. And so I guess I'd say that Hinckley and Bosworth Fair Trade Forum punches above its weight, really, locally and nationally.
So lots of events going on throughout the fortnight, but I'll ask you in just a moment as to how people can get involved.
Yeah.
But it goes on throughout the year.
Goes on throughout the year. I mean, the fortnight is, as you know, there's lots of days for different things and months for different things. Just had LGBT History Month and all sorts of things. Fairtrade Fortnight is a time where the media, like our interview today, focuses on the matter. But yes, absolutely, we promote the cause locally in Hinckley and Bosworth throughout the whole year. And, we really do need some new people joining our forum. We've got a lovely group of people, but it'd be great to get more. If people want to do that, they can find us on Twitter at LE10 Fairtrade. LE10 being the postcode, of course, for the Hinckley area. LE10 Fairtrade, and I'll definitely respond to anyone who gets in touch.
Okay, no excuses there. LE10 Fairtrade on Twitter. And if people want to come along to events that are going on, what's the best way to find out where they're all happening?
The best way to find out, I will be highlighting them throughout the fortnight on that Twitter feed, so, do go there. But also, I believe they're listed, all of our events, on the Hinckley and Bosworth Borough Council website, if people just go on there and look for Fairtrade.
Matthew, before I let you go, World Book Day today, of course, and all of us presenters here at BBC Radio Leicester have bought in books to swap with each other and books that we would recommend.
Cool.
I'd like to talk about on the programme this afternoon about books that are better than the film version. I'm quite often disappointed with film versions.
Right.
What have you books that you would recommend that are better?
I'll tell you a
book
that I loved. I did also like the film, but I thought the book was infinitely better, and that was The Firm.
Okay.
I love those kind of legal things, I'm afraid. And I think it was with Tom Cruise, wasn't it? The film, I'm sure it was. Tom Cruise played the I mean, we're going back a wee while, but I'm sure that Tom Cruise was the lead character.
We're going to check that.
Yes, check that out. If I'm factually wrong, I apologise. But about a young lawyer who, had it all and then lost it all because the firm was not very ethical. But I like the film, but I just think the book can be far more descriptive. And let's face it, our imaginations, what better film is there than our imaginations, really?
Absolutely, because you can conjure up all sorts of things, can't you?
You can.
The Firm did star Tom Cruise, by the way.
Thank you.
Got it right.
Do I get a prize?
Yeah, no.
What do I?
Look, a bit of a clap. There you go. But are you a big reader?
I am a big reader. When I get the time, I must admit, I'm very busy with things locally, not just Fairtrade, but LGBT matters and other things. And but when I get the chance, I'm afraid I'm a big reader of biographies and things, political biographies and things, which might not be everyone's cup of tea. Don't have a great deal of time to read fiction, but when I do, I enjoy it. So. Yeah.
There you go. So The Firm is one you would recommend,
yes.
the book. Matthew, thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank you. It's been lovely.
Matthew Hulbert, who's the Fairtrade Forum member for Hinckley and Bosworth, talking about Fairtrade Fortnight. LE10 Fairtrade is their Twitter handle if you want to find out more. Tweet Matthew. He will reply.